In this unit, we'll be talking about moving data in Excel. So this is slightly different from copying and pasting data in that we are just shifting it somewhere else. Although there is an element which is very similar to copying and pasting, which is called duplicating, and it's done via moving the data. So let's just deep dive into an example. So here we have a list of names over here. Alan, Bob, Carol, Alan, Bob, Carol. And what I want to do is I actually want to move it into this section over here. Okay, so here's our target. Now, previously what we would do is just copy and paste it into there. But what I want to do is I actually want to get rid of this too. And that's actually called moving. So what I'm going to do is instead of copying, let's get rid of that. We're going to select it so the green box is around all of those cells. And I'm going to hover my mouse until the moving sign turns into 4 little arrows, as you can see on my screen. Once those 4 little arrows pop up on your screen, the directional arrows, it's telling you that you can move this, and now you can see the outline moving around as well. So let's just get this in between our target. Now as you can see, this has completely gone and it's moved over here. So let's just undo that. What happens if we want to do a quick copy and paste, but using this method? Well, we can do that as well, but instead of just hovering, what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the control key as well. So now, as you can see, the keyboard has changed, and we've got a mouse with a little plus symbol. Now, it's a very quick way of doing a copying and paste. If you prefer the dexterity of using the mouse, you get the exact same result. I can copy paste over here, or I can select, hold down control, and drag it. It's really just whatever you prefer, but there's another way of doing that. Now this also applies with entire columns or rows as well. So if I want to shift this entire column over here, that works. Let's just undo that. Or if I want to select this entire row, I can move this as well. Or I can create a copy by selecting the row, holding down control on my keyboard, and dragging this down here. Now I've got the same row duplicated, or column as well. Let me duplicate this over here. Now I've got 2 lists of names very quickly and easier, probably faster than I can copy it. Now this is sometimes important for dragging across formulas as well. So here we have an example here, concatenate. So let's just say I've created a copy of these over here, and I want this column, this concatenated text, which is basically a formula to combine 2 texts together. Let's say I want this, but I don't want it here. I want it over here because I prefer the aesthetics, and maybe I want to color this in, or maybe I want to add in space to add in an extra name, etc. For whatever reason, I want this over here. Now let's try doing it with copying and pasting and seeing what happens. Okay, so this isn't what we wanted, right? And we talked about why that happened in the pasting topic. Because the formula, it's not locked. Okay, it's not an absolute formula. There's no dollar signs in here. What that means is every time you move that formula across, these 2 formulas are going to move across one as well. So the next time I copy it across, this is going to become K4, and this is going to become L4. So let's see what happens when we do that. K4, L4. So it's going to keep moving across unless we actually lock the formula. So it's not a very clean way of doing it, right? However, what we can do is we can actually keep the formula intact by doing this. So let's drag this over here, like so. And now this formula is still linking into those cells. Okay, so now I can move this wherever I want without disrupting the formula. So it's a nice, clean way of moving around formula cells, which wouldn't work as well with copy and paste unless you're actually going in and editing the formula to lock those cells like this, in which case you can then move that formula across. but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that's dragging cells. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is dragging tabs and how that's going to work. So moving data to other worksheets and to other workbooks. So you can drag tabs in the same way that you drag text. So let's say I want to reorder my concatenate tab to be before this tab over here. So what I can actually do is you can do it the long way, which I showed you in an earlier video, which is to right click the tab, click move, and then move selected sheets to the same book, but before choose your tab and go like that. And it moves that tab. The other way of doing that is to actually just drag that tab and you can reorder it as you want. If you've got a really long workbook like this, it might just be faster to move it right to the end like that. But if you're just moving it a very short distance, it's probably easier just to drag it like that. Now the next thing that I want to show you is moving a tab to a new workbook. Now again, in a previous video, I showed you the feature where you can copy a tab or move a tab, the difference being this tick down here, depending on whether you want to delete it from this workbook or not. If you want to create a copy, you're not going to delete it from the original workbook. If you don't create a copy, you're going to delete this from the original workbook, but it's going to appear in the new workbook. So this is how we'd ordinarily do it. You can either choose another workbook that you have open. It'll only show you the names of Excel workbooks that you have open, or you can create a new workbook, and we can move this to a new Excel workbook, book 1. Now the alternative is we can actually drag and drop it. So let's hold on to this tab over here. And we can drag this over here to this other workbook. And now this tab has been dragged across. Now the other thing that I want to show you is creating a duplicate of that tab. So you can do it the long way. As I showed you before, you can go move or copy, create a copy, and let's just put it before the count tab and press OK. So now we're going to have two of the same tab. Because it's got the same name, what Excel does is it just adds a space bracket 2 after it, so you know that that one's a duplicate of the same one, but with an identical name. The other way you can do it is actually holding down the Control key, selecting the tab you want to copy, and dragging this to where you want it. You can see the little arrow there telling you where the tab's going to go. I want it over here, and now it's done the same thing and said Corel bracket number 3. That's pretty much everything about manually dragging data. It's just another quicker option to copying and pasting data or tabs. It's up to you how you want to do it. You can go down this route or you can do this route, but just understanding which method you prefer, which method is quicker, and in which situations it's better to drag data. For example, manipulating a column where a formula is linking in, may be better to drag it than to copy and paste that data. Otherwise, that's the end of a relatively short chapter in this module, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video talking about font formatting.